Greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Today we're gonna be reviewing Freehand by the band Gentle Giant.
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
Gentle Giant, you know them, they're the great progressive band. It's not another band with the same name. There's actually an album by Gentle Giant that I still don't know, and it's on here and I just listened to it and it's very good. So I want to share this with you all, and I'll do so with some of my favorite bits from this album.
Changing times, watching those signs. Things were changing my life, taking your place in my life. I down and drifting from place to place. For all he needs is a shelter from seasons he has to face.
So for anyone who's following along with this list, either you're listening to the list or you're just listening or seeing what I'm gonna listen to in advance, then this one might surprise you if your list isn't updated. Well, you see, today it was actually going to be about another album, which was The Everglow by the band May, but May are a band which I've already listened to one of their albums on the list back in episode 37. That album was of course Singularity, and I hated it to bits. I gave it a rating of 1, which is my lowest rating, by the way. I don't give an album or a song a rating of 0. I just don't think that's possible. So in any way, I didn't want to listen to that album today, so I switched it up to something else, and I kind of realized that I never listened to Freehand by Gentle Giant. I might have thought that I did, but I actually didn't. So I put it on here because I know it's very popular, and it's basically one that I had to know. Now yes, it might surprise some of you that I don't know this album quite yet, because it's one of their best albums according to many people. They don't have a large discography, but much of it is actually very good. So I'm gonna inform you all that actually I didn't know 2 of their albums. I never listened to their last album, Civilian, and I also didn't listen to this one. But the reason I didn't think about putting it on the list beforehand is because for some reason I thought that I did know it. Like, it kind of just didn't seem right to me that I never gave a listen, and come to think of it, I probably heard some of it at times, like on various progressive rock radio stations, or maybe when I had like shuffle play on Spotify, but when it comes down to sitting end to end and actually listening to this album, I never did such a thing. And this album, what can I say about it? This is a signature Gentle Giant album. It has all the classic tropes of a Gentle Giant album, and it has all the classic songs you'd expect to find on one. For example, so you've got the vocally sophisticated one, wow, and you have the more accessible one, whoa, and you have the single instrumental piece. No way. But the upside for this album is also its downside, seeing as this album is basically a signature Gentle Giant album with everything you'd expect to find on one. So why isn't it as perfect as albums like Acquiring Taste, or their debut album, or The Power and the Glory, or In a Glass House, or Three Friends, or Octopus, or whatever? Why is it not as good as them if it's, you know, a signature Gentle Giant album? Well, it all comes down to the fact that this one doesn't feature anything that's actually new. So considering the fact that the year is 1975, and you can see by this point that a lot of progressive rock bands that started off in the beginning of the 70s are already starting to lose some of their creative juices, it's pretty amazing to see how Gentle Giant are still able to pump out amazing albums one after the other, which really sound and feel like what you expect from a Gentle Giant album. But when you come to look at this one, you start realizing the truthful fact this album doesn't really feature anything new and doesn't bring anything exciting and unique to the table. We've already listened to these types of songs. As I said, there's the very stereotypical songs that you find on here, and honestly, when I listened to this album, as much as I enjoyed it, I just didn't feel any excitement generated by any track. Songs from other albums, for example Proclamation, Peel the Paint, Wreck, or Nothing at All, they're all fantastic songs which each and every time I replay them I feel that excitement, those energies within me. I love listening to these songs, and this album just kind of didn't have any of those. If I had to say that the closest track to being actually great on here would be On Reflection, I think it's a fantastic song. I had a great time listening to it, but again, it isn't perfect, it's nothing new. I'm not gonna elaborate more on this one because you already got what I said. This is a signature Gentle Giant album that was basically made on this some sort of autopilot. And I'll just have to point this one out. I've seen some people criticizing this album for being too synthesized or too electronic or too, non-acoustic in some way. And I kind of get what they're saying. There's a lot of synthesizers, Moogs and stuff like that on here, and there's many things that kind of resemble going towards the 80s. But in my humble opinion, I don't think that has made anything bad for this album. I think it sounds really, really good. I love seeing this band actually go ahead and experiment with new ideas and creating their signature sound with the different instruments. We've had plenty of Gentle Giant albums to feature more acoustic ensembles, and I really, really like that. But this one also goes ahead and does its own unique thing, and I actually quite enjoyed that. But if I had to single out one person that really blew me away on this album, I'd have to give it to Ray Shulman for his bass playing. I know that everyone here is playing fantastically. I am not blind to it. These are Gentle Giants, the monsters, the Goliaths of multi-instrumentalism. They all know what they're doing and they're doing their best. But the bass lines on here, they're heavy, they're thick, they're funky, they're always correct, they're always on point, very innovative. I was just blown away by the way he played on here. Like, honestly, if there's something about this album that didn't feel like it was done without really thinking about it, it's the bass playing. It's amazing, and I really enjoyed this album much because of it. And if something comes up to mind is thinking about how their way from here on out would continue to go. We all know that this album is arguably their last great album. From here onwards, they made albums like Interview and The Missing Piece and Giant for a Day, and of course Civilian, which I don't know, but I can only assume isn't a really good album. And they kind of knew where to stop, which is really, really nice. They kind of saw that things weren't going their way, and thus they replaced their status for not being an everlasting band, but instead being a very timeless band. And again, let me put the emphasis, this album is great. I had a fantastic time listening to it. I am no person to start dissecting the music of Gentle Giant. It has so many things about it, so many unwritten and written rules about classical, traditional music. Everything that you want, it's there, it's jazzy, it's amazing. This album is amazing, but it kind of falls short when it comes to being memorable because it's just your, plain Gentle Giant album, if plain is even a word you can really use to describe their music. So I tried looking for who made this cover, but everywhere it's credited for being Gentle Giant, so the band itself made this cover, I guess. Now, I don't know what about you, but the first time I saw this cover in a record shop, one thing popped into mind, and that was The Thing. Now, if you don't know what The Thing is, it's actually the name of it. The Thing is a character from the well-known Addams Family. It was first introduced to the series in 1954. It's basically a creature that's so hideous to look at that the only part of his body that you can really, observe is his hand. So his hand just roams around the house and he does various things. And this hand over here basically is what The Thing looks like. Now, I don't know if whoever made this cover was directly inspired by that character, but I can only assume they at least knew about it. And when it comes to what's actually seen on this cover, well, it seems to be like some sort of story. So you have the hand, it's looking at the picture is of two hands, they're both tied together, it looks like it's trying to grab, but it doesn't, succeed in doing so. It's black and white, but there's color in the hand. it can mean so many things. I actually tried, pondering it, thinking what it might mean, and I came up with so many directions but no conclusive answers. So I guess this cover just really doesn't have any conclusive answers, and that's pretty cool, and I like that very, very much. But if you know what this cover is supposed to represent, if you know what it means, if the band has ever said so, then I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. This album is fun, it's great, it's fantastic from start to finish, but it's not special, especially in Gentle Giant terms, so it's gonna receive a very fine rating of 8 out of 10. But that's about it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for tomorrow because we're going to be listening to Un Biglietto del Tram by the band Stormy 6. I of course want to thank my lovely supporter over on Patreon, so thank you so much to Clay Wallum, you are the best. And if any of you want to support me over on Patreon, you can find the link down in the description or in my about page. But that's about it, guys. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.